Hey guys, welcome back to the Pursuit of Property podcast. Today, Cade and I are talking about how to sell your house for the best price in a already competitive and strong market.
Yeah. I mean, we did our whole buyer series, our 3-part episode there, obviously dealing with all our buyers and everything about the home buying process. But exactly that. We also wanted to talk about the selling side, how to get the most amount of money out of your house, especially in this competitive market.
Yeah, we didn't want to neglect those home sellers that we work with on a regular basis. And honestly, the strategy for getting the best price, in our opinion, is not one that most sellers are super familiar with. And so when we sit down on listing appointments and we say, hey, we sell houses for the best price and this is how we do it, we get a lot of pushback. So we thought we'd take some time today, take 45 minutes to really describe the whole process and let sellers be able to listen to this podcast and make the decision for themselves.
Yeah. Well, and before we jump into that, let's kind of cover where we've been at in the market recently, and not just recently, kind of the last couple of years leading up to where we are now, end of Q1 in 2022. It's no secret that pretty much even a little bit before COVID hitting, it's pretty much been a seller's market.
Yeah, since I started in 2018, it's essentially been a seller's market. In 2018, the market was a little bit more balanced. One of my first offers I got accepted did have the seller covering some of the closing costs. That's something that's unheard of nowadays. But as time has gone on, it's definitely leaned more towards the sellers. And a lot of that has to do with inventory, just not enough homes available and not enough homes being built. And it also has to do right now with the world economy.
Yeah, and what that has done as a result, which is also no secret for anybody out there who's been keeping up with it or hearing from family members who are trying to buy their house or even have already sold their house, is home values are skyrocketing. Appreciation is going absolutely nuts.
Right.
As a result of this kind of constrained, limited inventory, buyer feeding frenzy with limited homes, relative to how also the economy as a whole has been going.
Right.
And, well, let's talk about that a little bit. Right now, as of right now, everybody who's listening and watching, obviously we've got all the stuff going on overseas, right?
Right. And there will always be stuff overseas.
There's always going to be stuff that is out of our control, right? But obviously does come back and affect us here locally, i.e. gas prices. Everybody who's listening right now knows you got to pay an arm and a leg for gas.
Right.
But at least the housing market sitting in a seller's market as it has been for, the past couple of years.
Yeah. And then the most recent update, this podcast is going to get delivered a couple weeks after the news. But the most recent update from the Fed, who controls the universal banking, they just announced that they're going to be increasing interest rates 6 times this year. So just earlier this month, we experienced a 0.25 increase. So, we are going to continue to see that. Right now, interest rates have jumped from the historical lows of the high 2s and low 3s. Right now, the average, solid buyer I'm hearing is purchasing anywhere, if you're a government loan, in the high 3s, low 4s. And if you're a conventional or jumbo, you're going to be in the mid 4s, even the high 4s and low 5s.
Yeah. And obviously these, interest rate hikes that are going to be hitting us, throughout the year, important, the message we relay to buyers we're helping with, or anybody, thinking about getting into the housing market, is don't let that stop you from at least starting to go and buy a home, right? Everybody, I'm sure, who's listening, if you're old enough, can remember when interest rates, we hear stories before we were even licensed in the business, interest rates being, 12, 15, 17%, like that. Where we are now, yes, we're not in high 2s, low 3s, but interest rates in the high 3s, low 4s are still really, really good.
Yeah. And keep in mind, when I started in 2018, I remember that back then, a good interest rate was like a 5.5. And
See?
now, 4 years ago, a 400K home was selling for 280.
Yeah.
Now, that is what it is.
Yeah.
Prices go up, but we've had crazy inflation in the last few years, and we could probably do a whole podcast just on the current state of our economy and market. But Cade and I, honestly, we're not economists. We don't really pay attention that much outside of what we're seeing and how it affects our current topic.
Yeah.
So now that we've kind of set a premise for what's going on, some of you might be sitting there going, well, why does it matter how I list my house? If I list it anyway, I will sell for a good amount of money.
Yeah.
And the answer, in my opinion, is you're right. But we're going to talk about the way that we feel gets you the most money, and from our experience has blown sellers away on what their homes sell for.
Yeah. Starting with all the work that goes in before the listing actually goes live and everybody's eyes get seen, right?
Yes.
It was funny. We were talking about this earlier. One point in this, kind of pre-listing checklist, pre-listing journey before going live is making sure the home is neat, tidy, clean. You had just posted an Instagram story a couple days ago. It was $1 million house. It was a picture in the living room with a street bike.
Like a motorcycle.
A motorcycle, kickstand and all, just chilling right there in the living room. Now, $1 million house, I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong. If I'm a $1 million buyer and I see this house pop up in Zillow and I'm scrolling through the pictures and I see a motorbike sitting in the living room, that's going to kind of be a turnoff for me, man. I don't know.
I haven't laughed out loud at a listing in a while, but that had me laughing. And it's an over exaggeration of a great starting point to jump off on this journey, and that is just when you go to sell your house, you need to make it as universally attractive as possible. And so you might have done really cool customizations with your own decorations. You might have made a Star Wars themed room or things like that. And if you want to leave it, that's great. But our experience has been, and our recommendation will continue to be, to the best of your ability, try to make it universally kind of tidy, right? So, put maybe some of those interesting items you have in your living room. Try to get them off the property if possible. Or, if you don't have access to a storage unit or, something like that, throw them in the garage. You know?
Worst case, at least store stuff in the closet where in photos it's closed. Most buyers aren't, prospective buyers shouldn't and won't be rummaging through all your stuff.
They might open
right?
a closet to see the size of it, but they understand that you're moving, right?
Yeah.
So that's a great starting point. And you mentioned something that you kind of passed over, but buyers look at tidiness and cleanliness. And to me, I've experienced that the smell of a home matters. And everybody kind of always wonders about, like, does my home smell or anything like that? Anything you can do to tidy up the home is going to make it better. And then when you're cleaning, adding any kind of lightly scented air fresheners, this is a double-edged sword, because if you add a very strong scented air freshener, they're going to think you're covering something up. But, adding some kind of flair for the smell to make it smell welcoming and whatever, that's been something that helps too. So, like making sure you move all the stuff out that, might be causing any smells. And then, again, moving anything that's like overly cluttering.
Yeah.
If you had that chair in your living room that you put in there kind of just because you needed more seats to look at the TV, when you go to list a house, maybe we pull the chair out and you just have that really nice couch and you have your coffee table and your rug, and that might look a little bit better when a buyer's looking at the photos to make the room look bigger, nicer, more welcoming.
Oh, absolutely. And going back real quick to the smell thing, at least what we do with all of our flips and the majority of people we know for flips is obviously the house is vacant, new. Buyers walking in, you don't want them to smell like the wood dust and construction smell that may still be there with all the brand new stuff that's in there. So literally just throwing in a couple of the basic Febreze plugins and a couple of the wall outlets and running those on low, literally walking into, one of our flips that we've done, most recently, I'm just thinking of Road 37 when we threw in those
Right.
plugins. It smells inviting. It smells clean. It smells nice. Yeah, huge. Being able to tailor, smell, sight, to be the most appealing you can to prospective buyers.
To the most universal group of
Absolutely,
buyers, right?
yes.
Because, you don't know who's walking through your door. And I bet that Star Wars themed room would be really cool for a certain buyer.
Yeah.
But our job is to get you the best price. And the best price always comes from the most people bidding on it, right?
Yep.
Okay. Super easy. So first step was kind of declutter. Try to pull things out. If you're not sure what to declutter, feel free to ask one of us, right? Hey, what should I move? A good agent is going to know, okay, this is important and this isn't, right? So next step, this one was even easier. Have a handyman come in, or if you're handy yourself, you can do it yourself. Have a handyman come in and fix the things that would be noticeable on a showing. We wrote down a couple examples, but the most common one I tell everybody about is light bulbs.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why, but everybody has a couple light bulbs out in their house. And I've noticed that the homes that change out the light bulbs to make sure that they're all working, they sell for a better price. I think it has to do with the feeling of the home has been maintained better. So that was one example. Another would be door handles.
Mm-hmm.
If your door handle is shaky, wobbly, or whatever, that's a little hardware to fix. I mean, you could change that in a short period of time, or a handyman can do it for $10, but making sure that handle feels good and doesn't rattle and isn't broken and it opens both ways you turn it, that kind of a thing. That adds value because when you're walking through a home, you're not looking at the bones of the home. Like, you're not looking at the electrical and the plumbing and all that.
Yeah.
You're looking at what can I see while I'm walking through for 15 minutes. And that's kind of been something I tell all my clients to do. Hey, let's paint baseboards. Let's fix handles. Let's fix doorknobs. Let's fix light bulbs. Let's get windows cleaned. Let's replace a screen. Things like that.
Yeah. Anything outlandishly noticeable that if you yourself as a buyer were walking through the home would immediately, catch your eye. Any, hardware on cabinets, stuff like that. Any loose, like cupboard things, if a screw's loose and the door's
cabinet door or something.
at like now a 45-degree angle, and it is so noticeable. Like, takes 2 seconds to push it up, drill in the screw, good, right?
Right.
And stuff like that. Now, we are not saying to go out and completely remodel your house. Now, that's exaggerated. We're also not saying to go and, paint your kitchen cupboards and do all this to make it more visually appealing. That's not what we're saying. Anything small and noticeable. Another one I can think of is if, your kitchen sink is constantly dripping.
Please fix that.
Tighten whatever you need to do. Handyman, tighten something, you do it, something so that it's just not noticeable anymore.
Right. And the key here is, again, the way that a buyer is buying is off of sight and smell, right? And emotion.
Mm-hmm.
If they walk in and they feel like you haven't taken care of the home, their offer is going to reflect that. Because if you can't take care of the little stuff, how can you take care of the big stuff? And you probably do take care of the big stuff. These are little things that everybody lives with. When you go to sell the home, fixing it is just a way of getting a better price. So making sure that when you have your listing appointment, cover all that stuff with your agent, especially if you're sitting with one of us. Usually when we list a property, it's within the week.
Mm-hmm.
So it's saying, hey, okay, these are some things I need to get fixed. Can you please send me some contractors to do these things? Cade or I, we send our client the contractor. We say, let them know that we sent you. They'll come out right away, get that thing resolved. And then the next immediate step, you've cleaned the home out basically, right? So you've tried to declutter. You've put stuff away and you've tried to tidy things up yourself. Now you've gotten a handyman come through and fix the problems that you couldn't fix, or you fixed whatever you could. The next immediate step has a timeline. Now we're into that. The pre-listing stuff, that stuff is before any time matters.
Mm-hmm.
This is when timing matters. The Wednesday before you list your home, you want to have a professional cleaner come through. And you want, not like, hey, this is my house cleaner that comes on Tuesdays, right? This is like a professional cleaner who does a deep clean on your house. This should take depending on the size of your home, between 2 and 4 hours. And the idea is that all that grime and stuff that you don't normally get because, I'll get it next week. All of that gets cleaned. I don't know if you can hear a theme coming around, but it's always about how clean can we make the house feel. And conversely, or additionally, everybody likes the smell of a clean home.
Yeah. And this timeline is important because you're doing this Wednesday morning, late morning into early afternoon.
Correct.
The next important step is to have a professional photographer out there later on Wednesday evening.
Right.
Now, if you clean your house on Wednesday, you're not going to, especially if you live there, and you have the photographer coming out on a Friday, that's another 2 days of the house that, families and life and everything.
Right.
It's a very easy for the home to get dirty again.
Right.
So Wednesday is one of those days where we want the cleaners in, do their job, get everything done, and then you or I, your listing agent, will go and meet the photographer, be there with the photographer for the photos, video, whatever they're doing Wednesday evening.
And this is key. If your agent does not get professional videos or photos in this market, I think it is time for you to reconsider who you're using, because a professional photographer is not the most expensive thing on earth. And I know for a fact a professional photographer brings the seller more money, because more people go look at professional photos because it makes the rooms feel bigger. It makes the rooms look nicer. It's crisper. They're able to get more details. Not only does it save the money, or does it make the seller money, it saves them from the buyer who wasn't going to buy their home anyways coming through and wasting a time slot, because time is money, right?
Yeah.
So
an important thing to note, that 100%, in our opinion, should be covered by your listing agent.
Oh, yes.
1,000% should be covered by your listing agent. They should be paying, coordinating, and getting those photos/videos done.
We didn't talk about it either. Depending on your home, twilight shots might be necessary and aerial shots might be necessary. If you're on land, aerial shots to show the layout of the land is very helpful. I don't want my client looking on Google Maps to figure out what this listing looks like. I want them to be able to see this is what it looked like today, right?
Yeah.
So that's interesting. And then also the twilight photos look really dramatic and gorgeous, and they're attractive. When you have a house that you want to really, really, really push out there, some homes, they sell themselves in the daylight because they're amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Other homes, they might be amazing too, and they would do even better with that twilight added. And if timing permits, because there's only so many photographers who can shoot twilight, and they fill up, right? Every night they have a shot. If it works out, getting that would be really helpful.
Yeah.
And then last thing that happens is the sign goes up.
Mm-hmm.
So usually it's right after the photographer, like the very next morning. For marketing purposes, you cannot have a sign in your photos, so you have to put it up after. So usually on that next morning, Thursday morning, bang, post hits the ground with the for sale sign, and that starts drawing attention. People are going to start pulling up the the Zillows and Trulias of the world, and they're going to start looking. And your home's going to be right there, looking gorgeous with professional photos, clean as day. The landscapers have come through. We didn't talk about that, but obviously when you have your cleaners come through, making sure that somebody comes around to tidy up the yards as well.
Freshly mowed lawn, weeds are gone.
It's the sidewalks are blown for any, grass or leaves or dirt.
Mm-hmm.
The exterior needs to look good. But at that point, you're already bringing people in right on day one without having to do any marketing, just from the sign being up there.
Yeah. And depending on the turnover for the professional photos, that would put us Thursday morning, sign goes up. And depending when those photos are back in hand from your agent, and your agent's going to do everything on the back end to make sure your listing goes live and is blasted to the Zillows and the Trulias and all that, going live either Thursday or a Friday.
And going live, for those of you who don't know the term, just means it being available to all the information being available to be seen by buyers and agents, right?
Officially listed. Your house is officially listed.
Correct. And it's being marketed, right? And so you would be listing now Thursday or Friday. This is where it's important that we talk about the strategy outside of what the seller is going to be doing. This is where we get the most pushback. our experience has been this strategy alone. Find the comps for the property. Now, if you're a seller and you aren't sure what that means, it means finding all the comparable sales that have recently sold within a similar square footage range within 6 months. We get an idea of where your home lines up. If it's the best, great, it's at the top. If it's in the middle, somewhere in the middle. If it's below market condition, if it needs a little bit of work, we put it a little bit lower. And we kind of come up with an idea of like, this is where we think the house is worth. Keep in mind, nobody can actually tell you what your home is valued at, because a home is valued at what a buyer is willing to pay.
Mm-hmm.
Then we list it for 10 or 15,000 less than we think it will sell for, because it creates a feeding frenzy. Most listings already have it, but Cade, you want to explain kind of the psychology behind listing it below market?
Yeah. If you see this beautiful home, twilight photos, cleaned and tidy on the inside, great neighborhood that you're looking in, and you see it priced 10 to 15 grand under market value, you're looking in that and going, as a buyer or as a buyer's agent, looking for your buyers, going, oh crap, this thing is awesome. And every single other buyer's agent who's looking in the area and every single other buyer who's looking in the area is going to think the exact same thing. And it creates exactly what you were saying, that feeding frenzy where everybody wants to go in and see it as soon as possible. Everybody wants, to go and see it, make an offer. That, like, it just creates this swarm of people who want to get into your home.
And if you overprice it, kind of the opposite happens. I think even
turns buyers off.
Right. Even in the strongest market ever, if you price your home, if you think your house is worth $450 and you price it at $475, there might be still some showings, but you're shooting yourself in the foot by not setting yourself up to have a lot of people go through and make offers, because they might come in and see it and think, it was okay, not my cup of tea, and now they're gone.
Yeah. And the interesting thing is, worth 450, you listed at 475, you get this, kind of sprinkle showings here and there. The interesting thing is, if you listed it at a tad under 450,
if you listed at 435,
there is a very, very good chance, yet obviously depending on all these factors, right? But there is a very good chance that feeding frenzy is going to create your end price or your offers to be near that 475 range, where
even if it's not worth
475. But like we said, a house is worth what a buyer is willing to pay.
So here's how this works. If you agree to this strategy, you go live on a Thursday or Friday. We list the home for 435, knowing this thing's worth 450, or expecting that it's worth likely 450.
Mm-hmm.
The agent puts in the MLS terms, these are notes that only agents can see. They put all of the desired terms that you want, right? And they put showings to be Friday through Sunday, showing time only, whatever, right? So they're essentially saying showings are just going to be this weekend, presenting offers on Monday night. And then, again, like I said, you run through the desired terms. If you want a rent back, if you want appraisal contingencies removed, if you want no inspections done, if you want whatever, you just put that in there. We're not promising that you're going to get it as an agent, but we're telling the buyers this is what the seller wants in return for a good price. Now, what they don't realize is that the price is going to get bid up, right? And we didn't talk about this. We skipped over it, but any reports that you can get before the listing goes live, if you could do a home inspection report, a pest inspection report, provide any like solar lease or purchase agreements, all that information we upload to the MLS, because guess what? If you're priced right and your house is clean and a seller walks through and they say, I want it, that seller is going to sign off on those documents and say, well, at least I know what I'm buying, right? They feel like they know what the worst case scenario is, and they do, because you're providing that kind of worst case scenario information. But guess what? Now you don't have to worry about in escrow them beating you down.
Exactly. And one less thing for you as a seller to have to worry about finding or scrambling to find, especially when escrows, can be stressful or,
right.
kind of sporadic. One less thing for you to worry about if you're, going and finding the solar documents, for example, and getting them uploaded beforehand. Those are going to need to be found and provided anyway.
And disclosures.
And disclosed anyway, right? So just having all that up front, uploaded, one less thing for you to worry about. And perfect point, like you said, a buyer who's really serious about the home knows what they're going into and knows what they're buying. If those reports are provided, signing off and being like, boom, I'm ready to go.
Right. We totally blew over this, but the whole idea of getting these disclosures done ahead of time and reports done, a lot of people feel like, well, there's some issues with the house. I don't want to tell them that. I want to get the best price. I promise you, a buyer who feels like you're being honest with them and telling them everything up front will pay you a better price than the buyer who's thinking, well, there could be stuff in there. So you list your home under market on a Thursday or Friday. You get all of these showings literally packed. I'm going to give an example. I listed a house. We knew it was worth about $440, $450 on the high end. But we expected $440. We listed the home for $430. We did this entire process, and we listed on a Friday morning because our photos took a little longer to get back. We had over 50 showings throughout the weekend, and the final bid price was well over our $450. We were, I can't say the exact number, but over 15,000 and almost over 20,000 over that for the winning bids. We had one person actually get accepted as the buyer and one person in backup. Both offers removed all contingencies, meaning my sellers didn't have to worry about the buyer backing out because of any findings or backing out because the appraisal came in low, and we got a rent back on both of them. So my sellers are able to stay in the home 10 days after the close of escrow to pack their stuff and move since they're buying another home.
Yeah, and we glossed over this a little bit too, was going live Friday and why we restrict the showings to Saturday and Sunday. Now, obviously, you as a homeowner, if you're living in the home, it is strongly advised you should not be in the home while all these showings are happening. You should, if you're local and you live there, go out, spend the day shopping, go visit with some family, friends.
It's
go
a
out of
busy
town
weekend.
for the weekend. Yeah, because Saturday and Sunday, the majority of buyers are off of work. You're able to fit the most amount of feet, the most amount of people, the most amount of eyes get on your home between Saturday and Sunday. Like you had just mentioned, 50 showings across the board in one little weekend. However many offers above however many price.
We had 16 offers.
And that way, you get it done concisely. You get it done at the what we would say is the prime time of the week to get it listed and have your showings, right? Because let's compare it. If you list it on a Tuesday, and your showings can be Tuesday or Wednesday, Thursday during the day because my sellers are at work. You can't show in the evenings because they're going to be at home. And we're going to review offers Friday. The number of showings you're going to get between Wednesday and Friday during the day when the majority of other people are working as well and can only see in the evening, your amount of activity, and I can't guarantee, but strongly advise that the number of showings, offers, and price you're going to get from that time frame is going to be starkly different if you follow this Thursday, Friday, showings on the weekend, review Monday.
And here's where your agent matters. So your agent manages making sure showings go off without a hitch. Mm-hmm. You're going to be out of town or you're going to be with family. You're going to be out of the home, right? Because after the cleaners come Wednesday, you're going to stay in your house Wednesday night after the photos, Thursday day, and then Friday day. All we ask is that when you go to leave Friday, clean up as best as you can. And then when you're gone, the house is going to stay clean. And then your agent's going to go and make sure that there's a super lockbox on there, meaning that only realtors can get into the home. No buyers can get in there without us knowing. And then we have everything set up to schedule the showings. We usually do them in like 15, 20-minute increments max because we have too many people. And what happens is when you walk up and you see that there is somebody leaving, and then when you leave, somebody's behind you, you get the feeling of, ooh, this is going to be competitive. We need to come in strong. Every time, my first offer is always over asking. In this market, with the current world economy the way it is, that's just how it goes. And even when it wasn't like this, we were still getting great offers on the first offer. back before COVID. Now, here's where the agent, like I said, matters. This is my experience, and this could be a little bit personal. I don't know if this is everybody's belief. I don't believe in doing the highest and best counter. On the MLS, you put, I'm reviewing offers Monday. I always like to call through on Sunday night or Sunday day to all the agents who have written offers and any agent remaining that still needs to show. And I say, hey, just as a heads up, my sellers have let me know that they're not going to be reviewing, or they're not going to be sending out a counter. Please have your buyers review their offer and make any adjustments to be at their highest and best offer. We will be accepting an offer tomorrow. All of a sudden, all those agents are going to start asking questions. And the agent who is representing you needs to be able to not disclose pertinent information that could discourage offers, but being able to say the things that matter truthfully, and that will help raise offers. A lot of the time for me, an agent will ask me, well, what could we do to make our offer more competitive? And maybe their offer is price-wise competitive, and I say, well, your terms are a little bit below standard for some of the other offers that we're dealing with. The sellers in the MLS mentioned that they do want a rent back. If you could give us a free rent back and provide an appraisal gap, those are things that would definitely help your offer, right? I'm not telling them what to do. I'm not telling them anything about the other offers. I'm just saying this is what my sellers wanted.
You're not guaranteeing them that would be the winning offer.
You can't.
You're basically referring them to what you already stated in the MLS, right, which is seller needs. What can I do to make our offer more enticing? We listed in we stated in the MLS, seller would like XYZ, and then exactly, there's already things within the offer to make them more enticing regardless of the seller.
Right. And this is where, again, the highest price matters in multiple ways. You can get the highest price from just having the highest price purchase price. Mm-hmm. You can also get the highest price by negotiating the best closing cost split, the best, inspection and appraisal splits, right? So these are all things that matter. And having an agent who knows what these terms mean and how they affect your seller's circumstance is very important. So if you're a seller who's looking to move because you're relocating and you need a fast closing, but you also want to get the best price, that's a totally different circumstance than the family that can wait as long as they want and who are willing to wait for the buyer who's paying the best, right? These are different things, and figuring out, here's what you need, here's what the offers provide. Agents can give a recommendation on what offer they feel is probably the best suited, but the seller picks what they want. So you can't promise any buyer anything, right?
Exactly. Well, and you make a good point. It's your listing agent's job. It's our job to, let's take this example of your 16 offers. It's our job to relay the price terms, to relay all of these offers in a concise and easy to view and understand way to the seller, because at the end of the day, you as the seller, like you said, we can make a recommendation, just like we can make a recommendation on pricing. Right. At the end of the day, it is the seller's decision to pick what you are most comfortable, pick the offer you are most comfortable with, pick the pricing strategy you are most comfortable with, and it is our job just to relay all of the information to you, make the recommendation, but it's up to you, and it's important for you to be able to see all of this stuff in a clear and concise way.
Right. And then these are little things. At this point, you've gotten the offers that make you the highest price, but these are little things that make the difference between the agents, right? When we present our offers, especially in these big situations where there's too many offers, too many things to note, we make Excel sheets that essentially break down as all the important terms in an easy and readable way. And we cover what they mean, and then we provide a net sheet at the end that says this is what this offer would hypothetically net you depending on if they have contingencies, if they have appraisals, things like that. And then we also discuss about security, because in our market right now, there's a lot of fallout because of different reasons. Mm-hmm. We call through lenders to confirm with lenders. We call through agents to confirm with agents. When we provide the net sheet, we talk about, hey, yeah, this is more risky or this is more secure. Here's why. This person removed their contingencies in order for them to cancel. They lose their deposit. At least you get that deposit, and there's potentially more action you could take if you were to approach a real estate attorney. Hey, this offer is pretty risky. The buyer has not seen the home. The buyer is pretty much maxed out on their loan price, and the buyer doesn't have any funds to come up with the difference, they offered 500, but if the home appraises for 450, they can't pay 500. They can only pay 450, whereas this offer offered 475. And if something were to come up with the appraisal, they have the cash to come up with the difference, and they've agreed to do it. So
yeah,
this is where having the agent who, guides you correctly, this is important, because you wouldn't hire an agent if you already knew all this stuff and you didn't need help with any of it. And at the end of the day, you're the decision maker. So, you've put in all this hard work to get the home cleaned up, to get it professionally cleaned, to stay out of the house for your weekend, to allow us to do what we need to do to get you set up. Now all it is getting to, pick from a series of offers, and maybe you have 5, maybe you have 50, right? And on Monday night, you're sitting down and we're talking about it. You end up talking about which offer you feel the most comfortable with. And then great news is you can sleep on it that night and decide something the next day.
Yeah.
And at that point, your escrow's open. You don't have to worry about showings anymore. You're not in the world of 2014 where you have people walking through your house all the time, right?
Yeah.
It's a pretty good life.
Escrow's open. You as the seller also have the right to ask one of the other offers that you didn't accept if they would like to be in backup position. Just like you said, because, stuff happens in transactions. Just because you as the seller accept an offer does not mean that that buyer is going to perform. It does not mean that that transaction is going to get across the finish line. So as more comfort, more security for you as the seller, you have the right to ask maybe one of the other offers that was super close but just didn't quite edge it out to be the winning offer. Hey, would you like to be in backup position? We are accepting another offer, but we would love for you to be in the backup position, just in case anything happens.
Right. No, this is really honestly our strategy that we've used. We use it on our personal listings. Any flip that we do it this way. Mm-hmm. Any listing I take, I always recommend this strategy. There's very few circumstances where this is not the best strategy. And honestly, if you're thinking about how do I want to sell my home, how do I price it, these are all things we can walk you through personally. And if you have another realtor or somebody else, ask them about their strategy and what they've experienced, because who knows? Cade and I we're realtors, we sell houses, but there's people out there who sell more homes and people who sell less.
Yeah.
Maybe they know something better than us, and we'd love to hear, but this is what we've found really consistently crushes the market.
Yeah. And like we said, that takes you from pre-listing to listing from an accepted offer. As we know, once you accept the offer, escrow's opened. We did talk a little bit about the escrow process, a little bit specifically more from the buyer's point of view, but escrow timeline, pretty similar there. But talking about how to most maximize the dollar you're going to get from your home from selling it on the open market.
Absolutely. This is a great episode for anybody thinking about selling in the next 12 months. I don't think our market's going to change drastically to no longer be a seller's market. It might not be the way it is today, but hard for me to think with the housing shortage that we have that anything's going to change anytime soon. I think prices are going to continue to rise as interest rates rise, and eventually we will hit some form of equilibrium. But I think this information and this strategy is going to remain pertinent for the time being.
Absolutely. And we're going to be keeping a sharp eye on the market as time goes by.
Absolutely,
and
yeah.
Like you were saying, when there does come a point of equilibrium or maybe even a shift into a buyer's market, we'll be here to kind of relay what we're doing to shift, what we're seeing other people, agents, what the industry is doing to help best serve you guys as the seller and you guys as the buyers.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys for tuning in to, I believe this is episode 53. No.
54.
54, if not 55.
We're climbing up there.
Yeah, no, we're doing really well. And if you guys have questions about the selling process or anything, feel free to shoot us a DM, and we're going to be seeing you next week.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.